Okay, everyone, this is my spoiler review of X-Men the Animated Series Season 5, Episode 2, The Phalanx Covenant Part 2. This also came out September 7th, 1996, because the first two episodes of Season 5 were two-parters, so for kids growing up when this came out, that must have been really cool to actually have back-to-back and have a good 40 minutes of X-Men on your Saturday morning. So Sinister, Beast, and Forge working together, which is really wild, and they figure out that the reason that the Phalanx attacked Sinister's place and also Professor X is because this is where they have the data on mutant genetics that they're looking for, because the big thing Phalanx is trying to get through is being able to assimilate mutants, which they can't currently do. So this episode really does a good job of making that very clear that that's their last thing stopping them from completely taking over. And like you'll see Hodge says later on, assimilating all organic life, not just mutants, but humans and everything in the universe. And you see that Hodge, his plan here on his end of researching this and how to assimilate mutants is using Wolverine's bones as a conductor because of the adamantium. It's a good conductor, and then they're going to research him from within, which is very, very creepy to think about. Everything going on with the Phalanx is very, very creepy, seeing all these Hodge heads everywhere. And if you put your headphones on when you listen to this, during the scenes with Hodge, there's just like very creepy sounds talking in the background. So pretty dark stuff. So what the X-Men will do on their side of researching this is using Warlock to test him to find out how to make a virus and destroy this Phalanx. And it's interesting, we see Amelia again, which I didn't think we'd see again in the show. Another one of Charles's exes. So she's now working for another Charles ex in Moira, but she's always been a nurse, so she's becoming a doctor, and she's actually really helpful in this episode in teleporting them where they need to get to. It's actually insane how far she can actually teleport them. Now, while they're in the lab and they figure out how to make this virus, you get to see Banshee as a cool moment, just holding off the Phalanx who shows up. But I love that Moira is like screaming for him and is holding up the plane, and Beast is trying to keep her from jumping off, but Sinister just throws her off. I thought that was so funny. And what's cool about Amelia being in this episode, really, she's the connective tissue to get them to her friend Magneto, who she has a relationship with, and they go to the Arctic Circle where Magneto is basically in the dumps here. He's upset about his failure of Asteroid M, and he has a full beard to show it. But to get him in the mood to actually help them, Beast uses a smart card here saying that his son, Quicksilver, has been captured. So that will get him up. Now Magneto will get this Phalanx sample for them, with Warlock shielding Magneto and using his own body to protect him from detection. But this sample transforms to Hodge's head in this very strange scene. And that's where Hodge kind of gets a lot of exposition in here. And he explains he was the one who encouraged the Phalanx to absorb mutants to increase its own power. So, like Professor X even asked him about, like, you know, were you this sick before they took you over? Like, were you always this crazy? So it makes you wonder, too, how much of Hodge is still in there besides him being possessed by the Phalanx, but how much this guy actually was like that and believing in this stuff. Almost like he had an effect, too, on the Phalanx, like that he was the possible worst person for them to take over. It also gets just creepier and strange when he's talking about how effective the reproduction of the Phalanx is, and you even get a moment where we'll actually see him digital reproduction of himself. And he says, is it alive or is it a Phalanx? And I like when they hand him the virus, he goes, what's this, an appetizer? What a silly line. Now, I like when Ford shows up to help rescue the X-Men at the Empire State Building, that he puts up this really cool force field to start getting them all out, like Jean, Cyclops, and of course Cyclops snaps at seeing Sinister. It makes total sense because it's ridiculous that Sinister's even here. But the best line of the episode by far, Hodge says to Magneto, Magneto, the beard's a new look for you. Somehow you pull it off. That's the part that had me dying. And then Magneto shoots at him and he goes, some people just can't take a compliment. Very, very good. But we'll see Warlock gets to the core. He releases the virus. He wanted to sacrifice himself because he felt that guilt of being the one who caused them to come to Earth. And he at least thinks that he can go out with Life Mate together. And I like that when he releases the virus, it goes out into the shape of an X. Pretty cool. And Hodge becomes human again, and he is heartbroken at this. But the happy moment is when Warlock finds Life Mate is still alive. And everyone's together, and Professor X has a great line. He says, it is ironic that a virus would prove so curative. I never thought I'd see the day when we'd all be working together. But Magneto totally kills the mood here and says, it's, basically a lot of people just saving their own skin. And right on cue, Sinister's booking it out of there. That was great. But Professor X has another great line to Magneto where he says, even if you have given up hope for yourself, Magnus, there are reasons to work for a better future. Here comes one now. His son Quicksilver shows up and he says, Pietro, thank God you're safe. And Beast has a great line to close the episode saying, sentiments shared by every parent on Earth. So it's a nice little closing for a kid's show. It's a good message to it. And it's honestly a solid episode. I know season 5 gets a lot of hate, but this was actually a pretty good episode. I'm going to give this one an 8. I didn't have many problems with it. One of the issues with this two-parter is the character of Warlock is very annoying, and him talking in the third person isn't the charming third person effect that Gambit has. It's the annoying effect, and it gets old kind of quickly and almost overbearing, and it's a little distracting too. And I think the thing about the X-Men is there's so many X-Men, so when they have like kind of a guest spot get a lot of time like that, that's not great. You kind of feel like you're just wasting some, maybe even I'd rather have a Jubilee there saying these lines than a Warlock. I just feel like there's just things like that where you're like, there's so many great characters we keep spending time with and hearing all this dialogue from Warlock. That's, I think, what brings down the two-parter. But either way, I think the story's really good here. It's a cool villain, and it's extra creepy, which I liked. I think it's just a solid episode and a solid show in general. So I'm giving it an 8. Let me know what you thought of it down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I read every comment. Try to respond as many as I can. Hit that sub button. It'll help me in so many ways you have no idea. I'm going to be doing X-Men 97 soon, and I'll see you next time.